Hello, my name is Jasonwbantle, and I'm actually going to be doing my project on what they refer to online as the TALC-3. It is actually the test for auditory comprehension of language. This is the third edition of the test, and I'm going to be showing you how it's done. In this video, I will be showing the description and demonstration of it, in addition to the paper that was written up, which is more about the validity and the origins of the project. This is administered to children between the ages of 3 years old and 9 years 11 months. They need to be within that range for it to be valid. How it works is that the examiner will read a stimulus out loud, and they will have the child will have three options. Can you show the table? For example, it would look something like this, and they would say to the subject, and I would say, "Show me the sheep," and the child would have to point to either the wood here, the sheep, or the bricks in order to be getting it right. Now obviously it would probably be a little more difficult than this, but that is the gist of it. The subject is directed to point to which picture best represents this meaning of whatever the test giver states. No oral response is required, which makes this test a lot easier to administer and a lot easier to put together than a lot of other tests. The stimulus is given only one choice, except for are only given the stimulus once, besides children under 5. A child that's under 5 is obviously between the ages of 3 and 4. If they do not respond within 10 seconds, are given another chance and another choice. So I would say, show me the sheep once again. Over the age of 5, they are not given another option. There are 3 subtests which are important here, at least in the 3rd edition. I'm not familiar as much with the 1st and 2nd edition, but with the 3rd edition, there is a vocabulary subtest, which would be the one I just stated, just saying the sheep or the wood. The morphemes, grammatical morphemes, would be the 2nd subtest, and the 3rd would be an elaborated phrases and sentences, which is obviously the most difficult of the 3 and probably wouldn't be very appropriate for a 3-year-old. One of the vocabulary is the literal and most common meanings of words, classes and nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and words that represent basic perceptions of the world. It's going to be very easy for most children, and it would be a lot easier to accomplish this subtest than the other 2. The 2nd is grammatical morphemes, which are the meaning of grammatical morphemes such as prepositions, noun number and case, verb number and tense, noun-verb agreement, and the meaning of pronouns, tests within the context of a simple sentence, making it a little more complex but still pretty easy for them to understand. The 3rd subtest is a little bit more difficult. It uses elaborate phrases and sentences. Is the understanding of syntactic-based word relations and elaborate phrases and sentence constructs, including single and combined constructions, interrogative sentences, negative sentences, active and passive voice, direct and indirect object, embedded sentences, and partially incomplete and conjoined sentences. As you can see, this could definitely alter a child's perception. If I would have said pick the item that is not an animal, a child between the ages of 3 and 4 or 5 would probably more likely still think the first thing that would come to their mind would be picking the sheep, because that would be something they would think of animal. They wouldn't be able to comprehend negativity and negative aspects of word language yet at that age. Now, using all 3 subtexts, if the subject does not correctly answer one of the 3 example items during the process of the test should not even be administered. They need to at least get one right. The test begins after 1 is answered correctly. The subtest should be administered in order and always begin with the first item of each subtest until a ceiling is achieved or the final item is administered. The ceiling is achieved when the child misses 3 items in a row, and the test will be over. The test should be administered in a non-distractive environment. That is important, especially for young children, to be able to focus on their attention and actually be able to do this. An important aspect of the 3rd edition of this test is that the illustrations on this obviously isn't the real test that they use, but the illustrations in the 3rd test are actually more vivid and more appropriate for children in that they like it more, and they seem to enjoy doing it a little bit more than they did in the first test, as the images speak to them a little bit more brightly as the 1st and 2nd option did. Also, make sure to give breaks when needed. The test should only really take 15 to 30 minutes tops. Most of the places I looked online said 10 to 20 or 15 to 20. But for a child that's 3 to 4 years old, you might still need to be taking breaks. If they seem tired or distressed, because these are young children. Be aware of fatigue, nervousness, attention, and the child's attitudes. Make a note of these on the sheet because how they're behaving is also affected in the test. How much time are we at?
5:05.
Okay. Examiner should constantly praise and encourage. The administrator needs to take, like I said, 20-30 minutes. And you score 1 point for a correct, 0 for a 0. The percentile rates and the scores are all listed in the Appendix A and C in the manual you get in the book. You use the sum of the standard scores for each subtext in Appendix B to find the quotient score and the overall percentile rank. There you take the age in months times the TALC-3 quotient and divide by 100, and that'll be their score. The reason this test is so good in closing really is that it's quick and easy to administer. It's simple and easy to score. The subject isn't required to say any verbal response, which is very important for those with disabilities and for the young children. It allows the examiner to make diagnostic impressions and interpretations based on how the child is behaving. And the pictures are universal. Sheep, lumber, clay, whatever the item is in the test, they do not need any interpretation whatsoever. The pictures are universal. And that's my discrimination and description of the test. Thank you.